VR in home consoles has always been a very interesting concept to me, and something that I don't think has ever really caught on the way that game companies and developers really wanted it to. Of course, you had things like 3D glasses on the Sega Master System. Now, admittedly, I've never even played around with the 3D glasses on the Sega Master System, as I don't own any of them, but there were a lot of games that were designed with the glasses in mind, and trying to simulate a 3D or VR-like experience on Sega's 8-bit platform. Then, of course, you had Nintendo come along with the Virtual Boy, which, for some strange reason, I chose a Virtual Boy over a Sega Saturn or a PlayStation 1 one Christmas, and I don't know, I was just kind of an idiot kid, but the technology and the interestingness of this device really was very curious to me, and I always thought it was kind of cool, but of course it was an absolute failure. In more recent times, you've had, of course, PlayStation with the PlayStation VR, which has admittedly been one of the more successful VR things on a home console, but with over 100 million PlayStation 4s sold worldwide and only about 4 million PlayStation VR units sold worldwide, you have to imagine that people are not ready to fully adapt this system. So when Nintendo came along and said, hey, we're doing Labo VR, a lot of people were like, what the hell are you doing? Like, this is pretty weird. But last night, Nintendo made an announcement that made a lot of people, myself included, a bit more interested in Labo VR. But still, I have a lot of questions with Labo VR because now I'm just more confused than ever with this. So what is Nintendo doing with Labo VR? Why are Mario and Zelda coming to this? And are they sort of banking on this to be the future of the Nintendo Switch? And where can they go with this as well? That's what we're going to talk about in this video. So sit back, relax, make sure you subscribe to the channel, and let's talk about Mario and Zelda invading Labo VR.
Hey, RGT85. Hey, Sean.
Oh my God, it's Stevie Richards! So pretty recently, we were introduced to Nintendo Labo VR, a build-your-own sort of VR headset coming to us from Nintendo that's essentially made out of cardboard. Now, cardboard doesn't inherently mean that it's a bad thing. Of course, you've seen things like Google Cardboard that you attach to your cell phone and sort of simulate a VR-like experience. So I was kind of open-minded about it, I guess. Obviously, it would not have a large price point entry like something like the PlayStation VR did when it first came out. And then I thought to myself, you know what? It's Labo, which means you have to build it. And admittedly, I am someone who struggles with building cardboard things. How can I say it's not worth it? Because I've been doing this for an hour and a half and I still am on step 2. Like, essentially it's cardboard. I can see what the end product is going to be like. I'm sure it'll be somewhat fun, but this seemed a bit easier, and at least there was an actual end game with this. My real problem with Labo is the fun part was supposed to be building it, and then you play some mini games for a little bit, and then you're pretty much done with it. And really, building things isn't fun to me. I like for there to be an actual end game, something that I can enjoy multiple times instead of just one time just to try it out and then move on with my life. So the fact that this would have some sort of end game was actually very interesting to me. There's a lot of different attachments for the Labo VR as well, and the one that actually caught my eye is going to be one that everyone's going to be like, wow, you're kind of weird, but I don't really care because yes, I am a weird individual, and that is the camera aspect. And why is that? Because the camera aspect comes with this weird underwater thing where you're like taking pictures of different fish and sharks and stuff like that. And you know what? It reminds me of Endless Ocean, and Endless Ocean was a fantastic game and series on the Nintendo Wii that I really enjoyed. I don't know, it was very relaxing, just being underwater, looking at all these different things and taking pictures of fish and, you know, trying to do little things in the game. I don't know. It was a real weird game that I actually enjoyed, and I think I'm going to enjoy the camera aspect of the Nintendo Labo VR because honestly, it doesn't seem that difficult to assemble. Now, there are ones that are way more difficult to assemble, different pieces that you can get for it, so I probably won't go down that avenue unless I have a friend come over and build it for me because, I don't know, that just looked way too difficult. But Nintendo Labo VR seemed like something decent. It's only $40 for the starter kit, so there's a low cost of price point to get involved with this and to check it out. But like I said, last night Nintendo announced that they are introducing stuff with Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild into Nintendo Labo VR. And then I was kind of like, what the hell? Like, this is a bit serious. This kind of shows me that Nintendo is taking this somewhat serious. With Super Mario Odyssey, basically there's going to be some additional content in the form of mini games that you can use with Nintendo Labo VR. And any sort of additional content for Super Mario Odyssey is a win in my book, because admittedly, that's probably still my favorite Nintendo Switch game to date. I don't know, I just absolutely love that game. I absolutely love the different worlds that you had, all of the music, all of the characters, all of the costumes, and we haven't really seen any dedicated DLC for this game. Yes, you saw things like the balloon mode where you could find different balloons that people have hidden in the levels, and you got some additional costumes as well, but as far as new content is concerned, you haven't really seen anything like that with Super Mario Odyssey since it released, which is kind of a head scratcher to me. So seeing some Nintendo Labo incorporated VR into this really piqued my interest in checking this out. But then they talked about Breath of the Wild, and then everything just went absolutely out of control for me, because I started thinking about all these different things, and I just don't know how this is going to work. So essentially how it's going to work is you just boot up your Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, you download an update for it, and then you can play the whole game in VR. You don't even need to make a new save file, you can use your traditional save file. And I'm assuming it's going to give a fixated camera on Link, and then you'll just be able to explore the world of Hyrule in this sort of simulation VR stuff with a fixated camera angle, kind of like an Astrobot on the PS4 VR. So on paper, that sounds really cool, because when you think about it, Hyrule in Breath of the Wild is absolutely gorgeous. There's a lot of different things to see, you know, snowy regions, volcanoes regions. Like, it's a beautiful looking game and an absolutely fantastic world that I'll definitely want to explore. But what's interesting about Labo VR and Breath of the Wild, and to some extension Super Mario Odyssey, is we still don't have any sort of headset strap for this device. They haven't said anything about a headset strap. It looks like you're just supposed to hold it up to your face and play the games like that. And that really raises a lot of questions for me, because something like the Super Mario Odyssey stuff, okay, like that could potentially work pretty easily, because they're just small mini games. It's not something you're going to take a lot of time spending with these mini games. You're just going to play them for a little while, check them out, probably enjoy what you see, and then move on with your life. But a game like Breath of the Wild, this is like a 100+ hour experience if you decide to check out everything. So how are you just gonna hold it up to your head and hold it up to your eyes and play the whole game like this? Like, that just seems absolutely crazy, because there is no dedicated headset strap that Nintendo has talked about. Nothing they have talked about has alluded to this as well. Most of the games, you have to put in the Joy-Cons on the side of the Labo VR kit and then just sort of move around like that. After about 5 minutes, you're gonna be tired as hell. Like, I guess you could lay on your back and play it like you did with the Virtual Boy, because that's how I played the Virtual Boy a lot. Look, I played like hour-long sessions with the Virtual Boy, but at least I had a controller in my hand as well. I wasn't just having to hold it up here like this. That just seems really interesting and really crazy to me, and just, I don't think it's going to be very comfortable. You also have to factor in the fact that the Nintendo Switch screen in handheld mode obviously isn't as crisp as when you play it on docked mode. Most games run at a lower resolution in handheld mode, and both of these games, Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, do run at a lower resolution in handheld mode. Now, inherently, that's not a bad thing when you're just playing it normally and you have your Nintendo Switch in your hand. But when you have it up to your eyes, like, how is that actually going to translate in terms of visual quality and visual fidelity? Like, there's just so many questions I have about this. Now, granted, I'm going to check it out because it is a free update, and I think it'll be fun to explore it. But as far as functionality is concerned, is this just sort of a gimmick to sort of get people maybe a bit more excited about Labo VR by incorporating it into these two games? And then you have to think about, well, what's the future of Labo VR? Let's say this does take off and people are interested in it. I think they just secured a lot more sales by adding in updates to Super Mario Odyssey and The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild by incorporating some Labo features. What else can they do? Obviously, a game that a lot of people are thinking about is Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. If you incorporate a first-person mode, because obviously The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Super Mario Odyssey are not being done in first-person mode. They're being done in a third-person perspective, which does work for some VR games, but most of the time when you think about VR, you're thinking about a first-person perspective. If you have a first-person perspective mode that you're playing essentially in VR with the Labo headset, that could be really cool. And then you have to think about other games, and maybe they could do some mini games or smaller experiences. The first thing that comes to mind for me is Pokemon Snap. How the hell have we not gotten a new Pokemon Snap since the N64? Something like the 3DS that had the stupid gyroscope or the gyrometer in it that had AR and stuff. Like, why did I not get a Pokemon Snap in that? And you could say, oh, you just play Pokemon Go. No, it's not the same, okay? Pokemon Snap needs to be a dedicated experience. I will gladly hold up that stupid VR thing up to my head and take pictures of Pokemon moving around like this if you give me a Pokemon Snap. Or what about Metroid Prime VR? Like, that's something you have to think about as well, because that's a first-person action-adventure game in the Nintendo world. So what's the limit on Nintendo Labo VR now that Nintendo is obviously taking this somewhat seriously and incorporating major franchises into it? I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting future, though. I think it's definitely dependent on the sales of Nintendo Labo VR, but I think more so it's dependent on the quality of Labo VR. What sort of experience you are getting by holding your Nintendo Switch screen up to your eyes, because I'm not quite sold on the fact that this is going to be a preferred way to play, or even necessarily a fun way to play some of these games. But I could be absolutely wrong on that. It could end up being really cool and really fun and really give a spark to the virtual reality scene. But just the way the Nintendo Switch screen is set up as natively as it is right now, it just doesn't seem like this is going to work all that well. It may be fun in short bursts, but as a long-term experience, I'm not quite sure it'll work. But then you have to factor in the fact that there's supposedly a Switch Pro and a Switch Mini coming out, and then you have to think about Labo VR with that. If the screen is better, maybe that's what it's designed for. I don't know, man. I don't know, but E3 needs to go ahead and get here, because we're going to learn a lot of fun stuff at E3. But those are my thoughts on the additional Nintendo Labo VR information and sort of the future of this platform. Obviously, I'm going to pick one up on day one. I'm just going to get the cheap kit, you know, the $40 standard starter kit, but it comes out at the end of April, and it's something I'm somewhat looking forward to. It seems easy enough for an idiot like me to build it. Worst case, I will call up Russ Lyman and say, hey buddy, need you to come over, need you to help me with this because I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot. And he will come over because he's a good guy, or I'll call up Rax the Great. I'll get someone over here to help me build it if need be. But let me know in the comments section down below what you think about Labo VR. Do you think Nintendo is taking this seriously now by incorporating things like a Super Mario Odyssey and a Breath of the Wild update? How do you see this actually working? Do you see this being somewhat functional, having a Nintendo Switch screen up to your eyes like this? And what do you think about the future of the platform? Do you think this has a future, or is it going to be kind of like the other Labo kits and just sort of be a gimmick? Let me know in the comments section down below, and as always, thank you guys for checking out this video. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications. I want to give a huge shout out to you guys. We just passed 200,000 subscribers. Absolutely insane. Thank you guys. I love you so much, and as always, I will catch you guys on the next video. Later.